Good morning and welcome to Coffee Time with Kauffman, the comfortable place to talk about women's leadership. Today we are talking to Wendy Cocke about women's leadership. Hi, Wendy. Wendy is a chemical engineer from the Georgia Institute of Technology. She is also a project management professional. She is an experienced, pragmatic, and solutions-driven leader with extensive experience leading teams and managing complex projects in an international medical device organization. Wendy has a proven ability in the areas of talent development, diversity, delegation, training, and building authentic relationships. She is a collaborative leader. Recently, Wendy has become the author of a book called Making Flex Work. But before we get into Wendy's story of leadership, my name is Maria Kauffman and I'm a life coach. Today, I am done drinking coffee already. I'm still taking care of my daughter's dog, so I am drinking water. What are you drinking, Wendy?
Oh, I've got my decaf tea this morning. I am high energy all the time. The world does not need me caffeinated. And I've got my favorite mug that my mom got me for Mother's Day. It says, "Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them."
Ooh, very, very powerful way to start our morning. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So, Wendy, help us understand more about you and some of your early signs of genius.
So I was raised in a family with a small business. I didn't have the opportunity to not know something and to not try. I don't know if any of your audience members have been a part of a small business, but it's all hands on deck all the time, right? So there was one time when I was in high school, my mom employed all of my high school friends. I was the front office manager, and they did all sorts of stuff for her. And my dad had to go out of town, and there was a customer visit that she needed to go on. And my mom was the business person, but my dad was the engineer. He had a textile engineering degree. She took me with her, and I had to help her figure out how we were going to manufacture this product, because the guy wanted a quote in 24 hours, and my dad had never seen the product he wanted us to make. So we got on the phone, and my dad talked me through all of it. I don't know if we made $1 off of that, because I have no idea. They never told me. But they went directly with my quote, my estimate, and moved right on. So that was my early days of what does it mean to be an engineer and what does it mean to run a business.
Wow, that is absolutely powerful. So, kind of nice to be held in that space where, yep, whatever you're going to come to us with, we have the confidence in you, we believe in you, and we're running with it.
That's right.
So way before that happened, though, what was elementary school like, or really those early signs of, hey, I'm kind of good at math, I might like science? What do you remember?
Oh, well, it was definitely when I got involved with the Girl Scouts when I was little. I loved being a brownie. All of the activities, we got to go outside, we got to experiment, we got to be messy. Messy was a big deal because I went to private school and you had to wear a uniform. And you were not supposed to get that uniform messy, but you got to put your brownie uniform on, and then you got to just go crazy, right? So being able to try things and experiment on things, I always knew that I loved trying to solve puzzles. And that was a big piece for me. And really what drove me to become an engineer is that problem solving and that puzzle. I don't believe that no is a word in and of itself. I think no is a abbreviation for not yet, right? So if I can't figure something out, I just can't do it yet. If somebody tells me no, I say, well, they just haven't understood it yet. Everything in there came from a very early age.
That's pretty cool. I imagine then as well, being in a household where, you know, eventually, like the story that you told us, that your parents really believed in you and supported your input to their business. What were those early influences from mom and dad, like, you know, even, you know, exploring in life and learning and growing, and maybe even that no is not a word? Did some of that come from parents, or what were those influences?
Oh, it definitely came from my parents. My mom, who today lives next door to us. So my mom and my grandmother are a part of our small little family, nuclear family. They do everything with us. But from a very small age, she was one of those women who just refused to give up. She had a corporate job. That's where she met my dad. They decided when she was out on leave, she didn't want to go back to work, but they couldn't afford for her not to work. It was a time where we needed two incomes in our family, and they figured out what could she do to make money. She was the first small business owner I ever met. I spent my very early days with an office in my nursery because our house was pretty small. She would put me down to nap and make business calls. So I never went a day without being a part of this business. One of her top clients early in my life was dry cleaners. So if you've ever gone to a dry cleaner and they've given you one of those branded bags in hopes that you dump all of your laundry in it and bring it back to them, my mom did a lot of that, selling those branded bags when I was small. And she would take me on her customer calls and just leave me in the front of a laundry mat or a dry cleaner with a box of crayons and say, here, you just sit there. And I remember they would say, is she going to be okay? And my mom would say, I know she's 3, but she's not going to move. She's just going to sit there. It was all about how can we fit it all in? How can we do all the things we want to do in our lives? One of my favorite memories is I was the quality control department for these bags. So they would get in the big shipment of bags that my mom was going to then take to get printed and have to deliver. And the first bag out of the box, my dad would let me climb inside of it and then would shake me in the bag in the living room. And if I didn't bust through the bag, that was the quality control.
Oh my gosh.
So everything fun. In the family was a game. Business was something that was meant to be fun. It was for everybody.
Right. What a powerful influence. So even like you said, as an infant, it was almost like you were soaked in the space of that, not only loving and supportive, but hey, we're also going to do this thing with our lives because, for business and to create a lifestyle. Wow. That's pretty powerful. Awesome.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, that was years ago. Can you imagine today somebody saying my dad put me into a laundry bag and shook me and then that being like a good thing?
Or the same thing, like sticking you in a dry cleaners, with a box of crayons, right?
That's right. That's an entirely different time, but I'm very lucky that I had that opportunity.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then, you're kind of growing up in this amazing environment. You're getting through, obviously, elementary school. What was getting into high school like? And because it sounds like you're kind of on this path for success. Eventually you're going to be into an engineering program. What were those high school years like? Anything that you remember?
Absolutely. By the time I got to high school, I think I was tutoring everybody I knew in math, right? I was one of those kids that math just made sense. All those parents that complain about Common Core today, I feel for them because that's how I see numbers. I see numbers as pictures in my head. And I am pretty sure my entire high school basketball and football team graduated because of the tutoring.
Oh, wow.
I could turn a graph. When I would sit down with a basketball player, I could turn a piece of graph paper into a basketball court and we would talk about running plays and what does it look like. And all of a sudden, math was tangible to them. I had no idea that these were the skills I was going to be using later in life, but it just made sense. So some of those early, going back to different age of parenting, right? In high school, we lived out in the country and it was a 45-minute bus ride to get from a school that was 3 miles away to my house because there were so few buses. They drove all over the place.
Oh, okay.
And I hated having to ride the bus for that long. So I made a deal with my mom that as long as I made it home before the bus, she didn't care how I got home. So it became a game every morning to figure out who I could get to drive me home so I didn't have to ride the bus. And I traded a lot of tutoring for not riding the bus.
Wow. Incredibly resourceful, right? Because we're talking about our value, right? So you're really early on understanding, oh, this math thing is kind of valuable and I can trade it for things.
For time, which is, you will notice throughout the whole story of my life, time is very important to me. And if I could trade knowledge for time, I will do it every day of the week.
Right. So because you want to use time in the way you want to use time, not the way maybe somebody else wants to use your time.
Not just sitting on a bus for 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. I love it. And at the same time, too, using those skills to, help everybody and anybody, I guess, in school, that's kind of a powerful networking opportunity. You're
I had
making
no idea what I
friends.
was doing, right? You think about when you're in high school and you're just trying to get by just like everyone else. So I had no idea the skills I was building in terms of coaching, training, networking. All of those skills were all just a part of what I was doing in order to get off of the bus.
Awesome. Pretty cool. So it sounds like, too, high school were fond memories. It sounds like you enjoyed your time there.
I did. Some of my best friends today are still,
Oh.
it's so fun. I actually, up until the end of last year, I still worked with one of my friends that I had known since 8th grade.
Oh, that is so cool. Oh.
Our paths had separated and then come back together. And it was so fun to be able to walk into a big company and know that there was one person over there that still knew like all my stupid stories from high school, right? It's such a comforting feeling. And also to know the trust that he's not going to tell anybody and I'm not going to tell anybody those stupid stories, but it makes it feel more like home.
Oh, that's pretty awesome, actually. So you're in high school, you're maybe you don't have a real awareness because, you're in high school of those skills and talents, but something's happening as you're getting to that place where you're starting to decide on your career. Tell us what that was like for you.
Sure. I thought that I wanted to help people. I've always said that helping people is the thing that is important to me, and I didn't know what that meant. I was in a rural suburb of Atlanta, which today is not rural, but years ago it was. And there weren't a lot of people doing those sorts of jobs in my area. We had a lot of pilots and we had a lot of doctors and we had a lot of nurses, but we didn't have a lot of people in engineering. So my mom, through her great wisdom, you'll notice all these stories come back to my parents. My mom, in her great wisdom, was talking to everyone she knew about what can she do to help her daughter, what career should she be, how can we, because she is a better networker than I am, for sure. And she was talking to her periodontist one day. So for those of you that don't know, that's very, very fancy, extra special dentist. So she's talking to her periodontist about her daughter and what she wants to do. And maybe she'll go and work in like a lab at a hospital. That's what I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to work in a lab at a hospital. Little did my mom know that her periodontist on the side was also doing dentistry for the Atlanta Zoo and over at the Yerkes Primate Research Center as a part of the CDC. And the periodontist said, no, not with everything you've told me about your daughter. We're not going to have her sit and do testing at an hourly rate in a hospital. That is not what her future is going to be. And she volunteered to have lunch with me. So on a day I was off from school, my mom packed a picnic lunch and we went to her office and she just poured her soul into me. She gave me opportunities to learn and expand. She gave me homework to go back and research. She was the first person that introduced me to the phrase biomedical engineer, which in the 90s was not really a thing.
Right.
And she said, you have to go do homework because that's what you're going to be. You're not going to run the tests. You're not going to help the patients. You're going to make the things that those people use. You are going to design the tools and you are going to change the way that healthcare is done.
Wow. That is priceless to have that kind of perspective and advice and support, at that age. Wow. That's pretty awesome. Good for you. So then you hear this information at that moment in time. How did you take it?
Yeah. So first I had to go to a friend's house because only one friend in the neighborhood had internet.
Oh, back in the day.
Back in the day and out in the woods, right? Like nobody had internet. So I drove to my one friend's house and asked him if I could use his internet to figure out what a biomedical engineer was. And quickly found out that at that time, most programs were master's level programs. So in order to get into a biomedical master's program, you needed to be a chemical, an electrical, or a mechanical engineer first. So now I had to do different amounts of homework. I had to figure out what those things were. And I knew I loved chemistry. My AP chemistry teacher was also my high school cross country coach. And today I am still connected to him and his family through the power of the internet, right? So I said, okay, maybe chemical engineering. And I went in and I talked to him and he said, yes, go do that. And I became a chemical engineer at Georgia Tech with the hopes that I would then become a biomedical engineer.
Right. Okay.
Never went back and got that degree. And here's why.
Tell us.
Because I found out that medical device companies hire chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, and electrical engineers to do biomedical engineering jobs. You don't need the extra degree.
So chemical was...
go back to valuing time. Why would I get a degree that I don't need to go get the job I want?
Oh, awesome. Cool. So you were put on the perfect path. You said yes, but then along the way, it was like, this feels right and seems right.
Yeah.
So and that was during college?
During college, I found out through my involvement with Society of Women Engineers, all the things I could be as a chemical engineer.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, somebody came from Kimberly-Clark, which is where I started my career. And she came into our meeting, our weekly Society of Women Engineers meeting, and she said, I'm from Kimberly-Clark. You've never heard of us. And that's true. So if you think about Kimberly-Clark, they don't brand their consumer products with their name. You may have seen them in an industrial bathroom or something like that, but the fact that they make Kleenex and Kotex and Huggies, most people don't know. So her introduction was, if you have a body fluid, we manage it. Now, I am sure that is not appropriate branding for Kimberly-Clark anymore, but it really touched me. And what she said is, we do all sorts of things, and we are like medical products, but for yourself. And I thought, oh, that woman's speaking my language, and she's a chemical engineer, and maybe I can make a connection. And I ended up going and doing a summer internship there, and eventually getting a full-time job out of school in their research and development team.
Oh, fascinating. Fascinating. So we're talking about a lot of really supportive and inspiring things. Is there anything that stands out anywhere along those lines that were obstacles or like weird things that you may have run into on this path to becoming a chemical engineer?
Well, physics is my nemesis. So if there is anybody listening who doesn't want to be an engineer because they can't do physics, I am with you. I cannot do physics. I'm a high achiever. And I came home the fall of my sophomore year at Christmas and told my parents I was going to fail physics. I was doing my best. I pulled an all-nighter and still made a 28 on a test. Right. I cannot do physics. And somehow I got a C in physics, which is all I needed to be able to graduate.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely had a lot of tears over what everybody says. Well, if you're going to love physics, you're good at no. Mechanical engineers are good at physics.
Right. Right.
It did help me realize that I'm glad I didn't pick mechanical engineering.
Right. Well, I would have to say on the other side too, I'm electrical. So I thought chemical engineering was holy cow, those are the most brilliant people on the planet, because it was that kind of science that was averse to me. So
it's all about picking the right part for how your brain sees it. Right. You remember I said when I like Common Core math because I can see it out in space.
Right.
I can see the molecules out in space and put them together for my chemical equations.
Yes.
In a way that I don't care if the ball falls off the table when it's going to hit the ground.
Oh, cool.
It's going to hit the ground. I am confident. I don't need to know when or how high it's going to bounce afterward.
Cool. So what did your parents say whenever you come, it sounds like, get a lot of support. What's it like whenever you come and say, I'm going to fail physics, or I'm not going to pass this test?
I was so lucky. I was sitting at the table, freaking out, having that moment where I'm going to have to, okay, I got to tell them I'm going to fail. And my dad laughed and he goes, physics? Oh, come on, fail something way more interesting.
Aw, that's awesome.
Yeah, he said, do you want the list of things I failed in college? Because physics was definitely one of them.
Right. So it's kind of like a nice diversion.
Yeah,
it's
it
like
was the
supportive, but like,
permission.
okay, you can fail if you want, but like, do it something, something more
Fail at
interesting.
something that's more creative. Everybody fails at physics.
Right. Super cool. So then you're in college and you're getting ready to, it sounds like SWE, Society of Women Engineers, was a nice container to get other information that refined your approach to looking for a job.
It
Was that,
was. Society of Women Engineers has been a staple since that summer before my freshman year.
oh,
When I did my college orientation, they had all the clubs out there. I joined Sweet at that moment.
oh,
I was advised by one of the older students that was showing us around that if you wanted to make sure that you were successful in your engineering degree, to get involved with the Society of Women Engineers because you were guaranteed to find upperclassmen in your degree program that could help you.
yeah.
And that was some of the best advice I ever got. I got involved right away. I was able to take leadership roles in Society of Women Engineers. I was president my sophomore and junior year. It connected me with faculty on campus and professional leaders on campus. It's where I found my internships. I only worked that one summer at Kimberly-Clark. I actually worked the following summer at Anheuser-Busch. They have a brewery just north of Atlanta. And for a chemical engineer, that is an awesome job. And for a chemical engineering college student, it sounds amazing, right?
It's like the holy grail,
The
right?
holy grail of jobs. Unfortunately, I was only 20. So it
Oh,
wasn't nearly as exciting as I thought it was going to be. But I loved the community up there. They were so gracious. They allowed me to work a very, very short internship. That was important because unlike a lot of engineers that take 5 or 6 years, I was getting out in 4 years. Time was important to me. I wasn't wasting it sitting
yes.
there. So I took a study abroad. I had the
Oh,
opportunity to do some of my senior level chemical engineering laboratories in England, but it was over the summer and it was going to hinder my ability to work at Kimberly-Clark another summer. My boss at Kimberly-Clark told me that if I came back for that second summer, he would not hire me full time because it would show that I had poor judgment.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, he said, if you come back here instead of using your opportunity to go to study abroad, I'm going to know that you make bad choices.
Oh, wow. Support in the nice way,
In a super way.
in a super way. So, in making those, even doing internships and certainly studying abroad, you're building a resume.
That's right.
Yeah. So, it sounds like not only that, but it's a good use of your time. And I
It
have to
was.
imagine also like studying abroad, that how much fun was that?
It was so much fun. My one regret from that summer is a group of people. I was not into tennis at the time, but a group of the students went and slept out, like camped out outside of Wimbledon to go get tickets. And now as an adult who plays like women's doubles, I really wish I had taken that opportunity to sleep outside and go for £5 and to go see Wimbledon.
Right. That would have been
But
awesome.
it would have been awesome. But it was all about building up those experiences. From that very short internship at Anheuser-Busch, I learned that I do not want to work in manufacturing every day.
Ah,
It is not their fault at all, but I checked it off every day. One more day, I don't have to go into that plant. One more day, I don't have to do that. Now, I have spent a lot of my career supporting manufacturing. I am happy to go for a week. I will come and visit you. I will run a trial. I will get involved where you need me and do problem solving, but please don't let that be my home base. It just doesn't fit for me. And I
yeah.
was able to learn that pretty quickly, which helped me in the job search. When I was as an engineer, there are so many options, especially as a chemical engineer. There are so many different things you can do. And having had the study abroad experience, the R&D experience at Kimberly-Clark, and the manufacturing experience at Anheuser-Busch, I was able to say, this is what I don't want to go find a job in. And this is what I do want to find a job in. And it really allowed me to have very authentic conversations with those recruiters about what I did and did not want in a job. I didn't go in desperate, just any job, please hire me. I was able to say, this is what I enjoyed, this is what I didn't enjoy, and how does your job measure up to that?
Yeah. Super powerful pivot, right? Like you said, it's like a double dipper. It's not only you're building this resume with experience, but then you gain this rich language in those interviews to be able to say, hey, I've been there, tried that, put my all into it. but it's clearly not the direction to go. And those opportunities, I think that's what they're there for. So
absolutely. One of my favorite, I love Dr. Seuss. My kids and I, when they were young, I love to read Dr. Seuss out loud. And in The Cat in the Hat, there's a line that says, the way to find the missing something is to find out where it's not. And that's the way I have felt about a lot of my choices in my career was, well, okay, let's say yes to everything and then figure out which ones I don't want to say yes to a second time.
Cool. So as you're building that strategy, and you got to love Dr. Seuss, right? So you're building a strategy to dip into career after chemical engineering. You're kind of clear. I don't need to go onto the master's route. What was that job hunting exercise like for you?
So I was job hunting the fall of September 11th. I had every on-site interview canceled.
Oh my God.
September 11th was on the second day of our on-campus career fair. Can you imagine doing job search without a campus career fair?
Oh my gosh.
So we were all scrambling. Everyone was scrambling. Nobody knew. The companies didn't know. And for a moment, we literally thought the world was collapsing around us. And I got a call from my contact at Kimberly-Clark, my old manager, and he said, hey, we're on a hiring freeze. You're going to have to go find a job.
Wow.
And I said, but there's no career fair.
How do I do that?
Find a job. So I took two approaches. I very much wanted to stay in the Southeast. I have been in Metro Atlanta my whole life. I love the Southeast. I love the convenience to the ocean, which is my happy place. I love that it's not the ocean because I hate sand. I love that it is a hub for being able to get anywhere in the world that I want to go. So I applied for every chemical engineering job within an hour drive of Atlanta.
Oh,
I didn't care what kind of manufacturing job you wanted me in. I applied for them all. And you better believe in those conversations that I told those people, yeah, I did this internship at Anheuser-Busch. I love manufacturing. Lie, lie, lie. I was just hoping somebody would hire me. Then I applied for every R&D job at every big name consumer products and medical company that I could find.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I absolutely want to move to Minnesota. I absolutely have never wanted to live anywhere else than in your city, right?
Georgia to Minnesota.
I had a lovely interview in Minnesota. Was terrified that that was going to be the only job I got because I was sitting in the airport at the restaurant bar waiting on my flight home because as I said, it was this fall of September 11th. Planes were as unpredictable as they are today, right? You showed up, you didn't know if your flight was canceled. You didn't know if you had a crew. You didn't know when it was going to take off. And the guy sitting next to me decided to mess with me. He figured out that I was from the Southeast. And he asked me if I had talked about getting apartments where I could plug in my car, which for those in your audience that live in the North, know that's a real thing. I did not. I thought he was messing with me.
Oh, it's real.
That's real. I thought he was messing with me. And I said, you're being really funny. And the bartender was like, no, you really, you are from the South. You do not want to pack snow. And I said, what are you talking about? And they explained this whole process to me. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I can't take a job in Minnesota. I'm not going to make it. So luckily, right at the very last minute, I got a call from my boss at Kimberly-Clark and he said, I have a job for you. And I said, great, I'll take it. And he said, excellent. I have no idea what the pay is. I have no idea what the project is, but I have you a spot. I hoped you weren't going to ask me any questions.
Oh, cool. So you're like, yep, that's all I need is a spot.
That's all I needed. Yeah.
Cool. Well, something grew from there though, right?
Yeah. I spent 2 years doing personal care products, specifically working on the materials that go into Kotex feminine hygiene pads and into diapers and to the side panels of pull-ups, the part that makes a pull-up, and had a blast doing real chemical engineering R&D work, the stuff that I read about in school and was able to play with polymers in the lab and run tests on materials. And at that time, Kimberly-Clark had a process for engineers where at the end of 2 years, it wasn't a formal rotation program, but at the end of 2 years, you had the opportunity to move to a different group. They would automatically move you. You didn't have to apply. You could go interview with those. You just went and talked to all those managers. And if they liked you and you liked them, they'll just move you. There didn't have to be a job. They literally would just pick up your job and move it to the other department.
Interesting.
That was their response years ago to not having a formal rotational program.
Right.
And I used it as an opportunity to talk back to networking, all of those different managers to figure out what I wanted to do. And I fell in love with their healthcare division.
Oh.
And that manager took me. And the very first medical device I ever worked on is something called sterilization wrap. So for those that have ever been to the dentist, it is that blue piece of fabric that's wrapped around your dental instruments.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So in hospitals, they use it to wrap the trays so that they can sterilize them and transport them through the hospital without them getting contaminated on their way to the operating room.
Wow.
But my very first medical device I got to come home and tell my parents I was working on was a blue square piece of fabric.
In its simplicity. Very simple, but very important.
Very important.
How did your parents take
shapes.
it?
We made it in rectangles. We made it
in cool.
Tiny squares and very big squares.
How did your parents take the accomplishment?
People just take the accomplishment, right?
Right.
I worked on that team for 6 months. I learned so much. But what I did is I said yes to a job nobody wanted. Nobody wanted the job just making the square blue piece of fabric.
Really?
And because I said yes, and it's not that much from a technology standpoint at the time, the patents were all in place. There wasn't a lot of real R&D going on like it has in different cycles of that product's life. There was an opportunity to get on a brand new to the world medical device that Kimberly-Clark was working on. And they said, well, we'll just move Wendy. And Wendy, can you do some of this in the side just to keep it alive? And we'll put you on this brand new project.
Wow. Wow.
And yes. The answer
like the golden
yes.
opportunity. Like it's like you're manifesting this, your heart's desire, and you can't like almost calculate those things. You can't force those things. You just have to stay open. So I find this fascinating. So really you kind of wanted to get into R&D, not manufacturing. Somehow that opens up to you, where a door closes, somehow a window opens.
That's right.
And then this little square blue thing, that you said yes to where nobody else might have, eventually puts you on this path to something really special. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. On that team, I learned so much. I learned about teamwork, and I learned about how regulated medical devices work. Because we were new and doing something Kimberly-Clark had never done, I had the opportunity to go actually sit at the FDA and present the product because they didn't understand what we were doing. We barely understood what we were doing. But getting to go and be a part of that, getting to go into the OR and help the sales reps train the doctors on how to use it, being there for the clinical studies, getting to go to all of those pieces really set me up for my future leadership in R&D and manufacturing and supply chain. Because in that one little project for 2.5 years before we launched InteguSeal, I was able to see everything.
Wow. Wow. Really, really priceless. Cool. So super opportunities going on in your career. What was going on outside of your career? Family life, personal, is there anything, significant going on at any moment in time during that time or?
So most of that InteguSeal time was coming into my mid-20s, and I had a great group of girlfriends that we were all single, living in Atlanta, learning to be adults together.
Fun.
We just had a blast. These are still some of my dearest friends. We all were single together. We all got engaged and got married in the same general time. We all have children the same age, right? We all had babies together. It was right after we had launched InteguSeal is when I started dating my husband. Well, I guess right before the launch. He actually also worked at Kimberly-Clark, and Kimberly-Clark at the time had a policy that as long as you didn't report to each other or to the same person, you could date. They were a huge company,
Yeah.
and they're based in Neenah, Wisconsin, which is not a huge town. So everybody was employed there. They had to be able to date somebody. So
Yeah, right.
right?
Like humans are going to be humans.
Yeah,
like,
they have to
right?
be able to
Like,
date someone.
Be real.
So we got the benefit of that corporate policy down in Atlanta, where it wasn't as constrained of a market.
Cool.
But I met this guy at work, and we started dating, and I was terrified people were going to find out. Right. I didn't want to be the girl at work dating the guy at work. Right. And so we kept it secret. But then he got assigned to the project I was working on as our supply chain planner.
Oh, no.
Which is fine. We didn't report in the same organizations. Everything was great.
Oh,
but my
good.
boss could not figure out why everything that I needed done from supply chain took so much less time than everybody else's requests.
Oh no.
I was like, maybe you should date him.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So we made it about probably close to 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months before everybody knew. And then I asked my boss, I said, they were having a Christmas party, and she asked if I was going, and I was like, I don't think so. And she said, well, I mean, you could bring a date. And I'm like, no, I don't think I can. And she said, why? And I said, well, because I'm kind of dating this guy on the second floor. And he also would be coming to the Christmas party.
Anyways.
And she was like, oh, girl, just bring him. It'll be great. And we did. And we had a blast. And so we have been married 14 years. We have 2 children. We have a 12-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And they have been a huge part of my story moving forward. So I was still in R&D and still leading projects when we decided that we were going to have babies. And I was thinking, I don't really want to work. I had this idea, I was raised in this family with my mom that figured out how to do it. I could do that too.
So you didn't want to work at all, or you didn't want, like, tell us a
thought,
little more.
I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Completely.
I just thought that, well, now I have a tainted view of a stay-at-home mom. I believed I was raised by one. You heard my early story.
True.
I was not raised by a stay-at-home mom.
True. Gotcha.
But that's what I thought. I wanted to be one of those.
Right. Those stay-at-home moms. That was my mom that I love.
That was running her own business, employing all the kids,
okay,
making calls. Like I was going to stay at home.
I love it. Tainted. It's a really good way to taint something too. By the sounds of your mom, she's amazing.
My tainted view of stay-at-home moms.
Right. Okay.
So I started talking about it with people at work, and I had a really good mentor who gave me a piece of advice, and she said, do not quit before you go out on maternity leave. And I said, but I don't want to come back. And she said, excellent. You can quit after they pay you for maternity leave.
Oh, hey, thanks for the tip.
I know, right?
Yep.
And then she said, but more importantly, you can't unquit if you change your mind.
Right. Nice advice.
And she's the one that instilled in me something I have told numerous women since then, which is the woman that leaves for maternity leave is not the same woman that comes back from maternity leave. True. You don't know how you're going to change, but you are not the same human. Absolutely. When you come back. And I came back, I was on maternity leave. My husband came home from work one day, and I said, yeah, I don't want to stay home all the time. I miss my job. And he said, oh, thank God. I was hoping that you were going to go back to work.
Really? Oh, interesting. Yeah.
He said, this is our life. This is our dynamic. This is how it works. We're a partnership, and I want to be a part of that. And I don't want to feel like I have to stay at work and can't come home and be with the family because you're at home with the family and that's your job. I want to be a partner with you in this.
Right. Well, and that's really important because it sounds very similar to what you're talking about with the internship, where you try these things, and that's the beauty of an internship. It gives you exposure, sometimes to find out what you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. This is so good. Okay. So, and it's nice that you had a husband that was willing to have a conversation about it and kind of stay with you.
Yeah, he is. I believe that I am where I am because of him. He has been the absolute best decision I ever made in my entire life. So I went back to work, and I very quickly realized that what I wanted at work was not a full-time job.
Okay.
big company didn't really have the processes for that. They had all the forms, they had all the policies.
They had the forms and the policies, but they didn't
know how to do it.
Right?
They didn't know how to do it. So it took me 11 months to get to part-time.
11 months? That's under a year.
It is under a year. But for those people that I have coached throughout the years who want to do it, when you decide you don't want to work full-time anymore, you are at your wit's end. You need it now.
Or 3 months ago, 9 months ago.
When I started not wanting the full-time job, and now I need you to be where I am. I'm here. Please be done. So I fought and fought. So just for your listening audience, I say that if you want to change your schedule, you have to give it at least 6 months, because you are asking somebody to get into your current headspace from way back there.
Yeah.
They aren't struggling. They're not crying at night. They're not having fights with their spouse. They're not losing sleep over it. They're not thinking about it while they're out with friends. It is brand new information when you bring it to them, and they've got to get there with you.
Yeah.
So you have to give them grace. It is not their fault. They don't know.
Awesome. Okay.
So it took me 11 months. I got things said to me like, sure, you can do this, but why would you want to walk away from everything that you've built? If you do this, you're never going to get promoted again. Sure, you may think you want this flexibility, but think of all the things you're going to be giving up. It will absolutely stall your career.
Don't you love how other people just know so much better about your life than you do?
I said, okay, I'll take all of those things. Thank you.
Yes, please. And yes, please. And yes, and yes, and yes.
Yes, that whole list of awful things. Where do I sign? And we were like 2 days away from signing. We had HR on board. We were having our last meeting with our manager. And then a major project crashed and burned. And when I say crashed and burned, I mean crashed and burned. It failed everything that it could possibly fail as a product after they had built it. They thought they were going to pass. So they'd already packed the equipment up, created it, and it was on a truck on its way to the manufacturing facility in Mexico. And the project leader and the head of their marketing team were having screaming matches during meetings.
Yeah. So
that is crash and burn, right?
Yeah.
They came in and they were like, so we can't let you go part-time. You have to take over this project.
Okay. Yeah.
That did not play well with me.
No. Nope. And with big change comes a lot of turbulence, a lot of,
There was a lot of emotions, and mine were only some of them.
Right? Okay.
And this is the other thing my husband did. He told him, he said, tell him you quit.
Oh, nice. Ooh.
And I said, you mean for real quit? And he said, yeah. You know what? Tell him you quit. Walk to the car. I'll pick up the crap off your desk later. Just go.
Oh my gosh. I do like your husband. That's support. Awesome.
And I have one of my dearest friends in the world, and she's in the book. The story's in the book. We had a lot of fun writing it because I was like, can I put it in here?
Aww.
She was in the mother's room when I went running to the mother's room to call my husband to tell him I quit, because my desk was in the cubicle outside of the leader's office that had just told me I couldn't take part-time. Like, I can't just like walk out 2 feet, sit down and sob. Like, that wasn't going to happen. So I ran to the mother's room. I knew it had a phone and a door. And she was in it. And I'm like banging on the door.
For a mother's room. They didn't have those 30 years ago when I started engineering.
We had one. It was an office that they just put a lock on, and they let us use it.
They called it the mother's room.
The poor guy who sat in the little office next to it and had to listen to the pumps all day.
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah. So she let me in, and she didn't say a word, and I'm like sobbing, and I'm talking to my husband, and I hang up, and she just looked at me and she's like, you can't quit. And I said, what? And she's like, no, you make them pay you to leave. And I said, oh, interesting. And she said, you don't have to do a great job. You just have to take their job. They'll eventually work you out of the organization.
I love it.
She's brilliant.
Another brilliant bomb.
I know. Look at these moms. So I walked back in. I was like, I'll take it.
Nice.
And I slowly started resetting the expectations, which is how I eventually got my part-time, because I had worked it down. I went and I asked my boss if I could go part-time, and he said, well, we don't have project leaders part-time. And I said, can I have my old job back then, please?
Oh, nice.
And he said, no, I need you as a project leader. And I said, well, I feel like we're at an impasse. Can we just try it for 30 days? Just try it.
Nice. I love this. It's just slow it down.
Try it.
You get, like you said, like you're, people don't know that where you're coming from. They don't understand this, maybe 6 month or whatever, all this stuff that you've been kind of percolating into. So you really do have to slow it down. That takes a lot of patience.
It does.
And wherewithal and all those good things. So good for you. I mean, you have also these brilliant moments where you have insights and people that can give you a moment of advice that really changes it.
That's right.
But there's also got to be something within you that does have that, I'll say, that ability. It's a skill to be in the middle of stress and turbulence and to say, wait a minute, let's just take a beat and let's just think outside the box.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's just flip it on our head. And he said, well, I don't know that we would know anything in 30 days. And I was like, excellent. How about 90?
Oh, just stretch it out even more. That's even better. I love it.
And he stopped. He's like, you're not going to give up on this, are you? And I said, no, because I think I can do it.
Oh.
And he said, okay, 90 days. We'll do 90 days. Now, in his mind, I've talked to him since then. In his mind, he thought, she'll pull some paperwork together. I can slow play this. I went straight back to my desk in the team room at this point with my whole project team that I was leading. And I said, he said that I can do part-time. So I'm going to start that this week.
Oh, nice.
And I said, but I need you guys' help. So I had built a relationship with my team. I said, he's going to let me do a 90-day trial. I need this to work. So if at any point during the 90 days, something is not working for you, I need you to tell me so we can fix it.
Nice.
Because at the end, I'm going to send you all an email asking how it went. And I need you all to say it went great. So if it's not going great, I need chances to fix it.
Laying the expectations like a true leader would.
That's right. They were like, excellent, go. Let's do this thing. And they gave me the greatest gift from being able to try everything for 90 days.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of the 90 days, I scheduled a meeting with I had sent them all an email to get feedback. So, business people like data. They don't like emotions.
Yeah.
The way it is data. So I'd sent out all of these emails and I'd gotten them all back that all said everything's great. And I compiled them into a report and I attached them to a meeting notice and I invited my boss and my vice president. My vice president is the one that said I could try the 90 days. And I just sent the meeting notice. And within, I just went back to work. And I got a meeting decline pop up on my screen from my VP. I was hot. I got up from my desk and I went charging down the hall. Now, he must have known this was going to happen because I'm pretty authentic. I have big emotions. Remember the decaf tea? Right. So before I can make it halfway down this very long hall, out from his office in the corner, he pops and he's like headed my way. And I'm just mad, stalking down the hall. And he said, hey, don't say a word. And I was like, okay, what you got? I'm trying really hard not to say a word. And he said, hey, I know you're mad because I declined your meeting. And I said, a little bit. Yep. And he said, well, I declined it because we don't need to have the meeting because I didn't know you'd already started. And if I didn't know you'd already started and you've done it for 90 days, just where's that form? I'll sign it.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you. So that is so huge. So huge. Life-changing, not only for you, but this planted a seed that eventually led into a book.
It sure did. So I worked part-time from that point in 2011 all the way to today. I still do not hold a corporate full-time job. I believe that if you can bring data to a business problem, that's my engineering brain, right? You can customize your own schedule.
Yeah.
I did not stall my career. I was that project leader. I became the manager of the sustaining engineering team. I became the associate director in supply chain for all of their cost savings for the whole business. I became the director of their PMO, and now I run my own business. I did it on the way I wanted to do it, not the way the textbook said to do it. And that's where the book comes from, is this idea that if you think about yourself as if you were your business, you or your product, you can engineer it the way you want it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I just one more thing though. So huge accomplishments from the business perspective, but there's also a family, gold mine here too. Like in doing those achievements, living or working in a flex mode, you also contributed to this beautiful family that you have too.
Oh, absolutely. I am the secretary of the PTA at the elementary school. I'm on the board of the foundation at the middle school. I'm my daughter's Girl Scout troop leader.
Wow.
I have friends. I work out. I was able to put it all together because it allowed me the flexibility to pick what was important on any given day.
Yeah.
So yes, some days I have to travel, and some days I am out late, and some days I can do carpool.
Yeah.
And some days I can go. My favorite job in the elementary school is something in our school called copycats. You go in once a month and you make photocopies for like 2 hours. That is my favorite 2 hours.
Oh, that's like a meditation.
Oh my gosh, I can run 5 copy machines at the same time. Are you kidding me? I got that whole room churning. I got my music on.
Oh, of course you can.
Of course I can. But I get to be a part of all of these things I want to be a part of and be successful at work. What I found in the pandemic was everybody I had ever worked with, all these managers started calling me saying they needed to know how to do this. Because when we moved to a hybrid world, they didn't have the ability to see all their teammates. So there's a whole section in Making Flex Work that's specific to leaders. Because if you are a leader who's never thought about flexibility, it's not a problem you can ignore anymore. Everybody wants it. Everybody's had it for years at this point and have proven they can do their jobs. So the book gives an idea for these managers on how to reframe and think about it. I give an example of a woman who wanted to be at the bus stop. She came to me and she said, I want to be at the bus stop in the afternoons. That's important to me. How do I ask for that at work? And I said, well, first of all, don't talk about the bus stop. Because nobody at work cares that you want to be at the bus stop.
Beautiful, right?
I said, but what you can do is talk about your schedule. So I said, for the next week, I want you to track your schedule. And I want you to not work when it is bus stop time.
Oh, nice.
Just figure out how to do that. Don't tell anybody, just don't do it. And then I want you to go to your boss with that time study. See this engineering piece? It's all just industrial engineering. And what she found is, I really get up in the morning and I deal with my team in Asia before my kids are up. And then I stop and I get them to school. And then I work while they're in school. And if I stop for the bus stop, then I can log back in at night and deal with Asia again.
Nice. Beautiful.
It solves this problem, which is nobody's ever up at the same time that my Asian counterparts are up. And she's like, I'll do it.
Solve
and by the way, I get to do all the buses.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. But think about how differently that conversation had gone.
Oh, right.
If she said, I can't work because I have to go to the bus.
Yes. And that's what a lot of we go to. We go to that perspective of this is my challenge and this is what I want in life. Mm-hmm. But it is just a different perspective. Nothing's really changed. It's just changing that conversation. But the conversation change leads to solutions for everyone.
That's right.
That's magical. Awesome.
That's right. So I don't care if you want flexibility because you got a COVID dog. Like, just do what you need to do.
Right.
They don't need to know.
Right. Cool. Well, it is just so easy to talk to you. It has been a lovely conversation. Help us with a couple of things. First of all, what is your insights into women's leadership for the future. Where do you see this going? Where people are solving a lot of more of these problems, where everybody wins. Where does it take us in 100 years?
I think we are going to be in a place where the best employees get to work for the best leaders. This idea from COVID that we can do work from anywhere means that you are no longer held to only working for the best leader in your geography, right? It is no longer good enough to be the best fish in this little teeny pond. Our leaders are really going to have to step up if they want good talent, because good talent is going to be able to pick the leader they work for.
Yes.
Because those leaders are going to say, I don't care where you work. You're going to figure out how to get it done if you're a good employee. And you're going to see, I think, a bimodal distribution in terms of really good leaders with really good teams that just deliver, and then everybody else.
Right. I love it. Very, very powerful. Is there an inspirational quote that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. I know you are not going to be surprised by my quote. So it's from Albert Einstein, and it says, "The measure of intelligence is the ability to change."
Ooh, I love it. And that is what we are doing, certainly with your book, certainly with what you bring to the world. And certainly it's what I would love to inspire more women to, just by everything that we all do.
Absolutely.
Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate the conversation.
I've had a blast. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. How can people get in contact with you? How can people get the book?
Sure. So here's the book. I'm going to hold it up real close. There we go. So Making Flex Work is available on Amazon. It is available just through this weekend as a 99-cent ebook download. So if people want to get it this weekend, it's only $1. Or they can buy the printed one. And then they can get in contact with me at makingflexwork.com. You can email me directly from there. I've got a ton of free tools that you can get about how to journal your time. I've got flexible work arrangement requests and packets and strategies. So if you want those, just download them and use them, give them to everybody. I also have I have the way you can get in touch with me to get on the newsletter. And as soon as I sleep from the book launch, which was Wednesday, right?
Yes,
so
congratulations,
hot
by the
off
way.
the presses.
Congrats.
As soon as I recover, I'm going to be setting up a monthly virtual book club and maybe a mastermind group. So they can look back on the website when that happens. It's not there yet because I haven't slept yet.
Cool. You and I will sync up, and we'll make sure that we include all of those links in the show notes so that people have easy access to Wendy Cocke.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. This has been so much fun this morning.
It has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Coffee Time with Kauffman is the comfortable place to discuss women's leadership, because I am on a mission to help the world discover the truth about what women are capable of. When you are ready for your leadership mastery makeover, go to mariakaufman.com and click on Consult a Coach, where you can schedule time with me for an empowerment session. Have a great week. Enjoy your adventures and journey responsibly. Thanks again, Wendy.
Bye.